Hello, hello, beautiful people. Happy New Year. It is January 1st, and today is the first day for many people for dry January. And I wanted to talk about that today. I wanted to talk about why do we choose to do dry January? What are the benefits of doing dry January? Where do I get resources to do dry January? I did not know what dry January was. Like, I didn't even know it was a thing. I looked up the history and it was born only in, I think it was 2013. And 2013 or 14 was the first time I heard about it. And I was really impressed because when I was looking up the history about it, I learned that it started in UK. And I'm gonna do another little clip on all that. But there was the reason I heard about it, and it wasn't called Dry January in the language it was presented to me. It was a director at a supermarket I worked at, and he said something. I was still drinking at the time, mind you. He said, "Oh, well, January I do this like reset and I clean like my body out so I don't drink the month of January." Basically, the way he framed it was, I did so much drinking through the holidays and the rest of last year that I'm just like giving my body a break to heal. And healing is something I'm pretty passionate about, not just our bodies, our minds, our souls, all the things. So I wanted to talk about the start of dry January. It's not a pressure thing. And a lot of people go into it with the best of intentions, and then maybe later in the month it just becomes easy. I watched a couple people in town last week do that. Oh no, we're doing dry January. And around the second, third week, they weren't doing dry January anymore. And I was actually surprised because they were like level-headed, what you would think from a stereotype. They were going to make it because they had done it the year before. Now, mind you, they work at a bar. One of them owned a bar. And around week 2 or 3, it just wasn't serving them anymore. So here's what I want to talk about today. First of all, if you made the decision, congratulations. Even if you haven't made the decision yet, but you're thinking today is January 1st and I'm not going to drink today. Like that's the way the 12-step program works. That's fine. Not that you need a 12-step program. I'm not saying that. But if you are looking for the change for your health and your energy levels or like the decompression. I found this year noticing the holidays, it was tough. People were struggling. They were, they had family in, they had obligatory things, whether it was buying gifts or having to be somewhere. It was a tough year for a lot of people, at least in my ecosystem. And we just need to decompress and like process that through our body. So that's part of why I think physical health and mental health go together so well. Because if we're using the alcohol to like not pay attention to what's happening in our emotional or our mental head, then we're not going to be able to grow through it or process it or get to the other side of it. So I think it all goes hand in hand. That's been my experience and what works well. So a couple things. I'm gonna have a nice like 10 little cheats to a successful dry January. I'm going to have a me first challenge, which will help with some of the mental part, whether it's about drinking or not drinking. Habits that are destructive to us serve a purpose. They're not the problem. Like a bottle of alcohol doesn't come running to you and say, drink me. It might feel that way in our head sometimes. A slot machine doesn't call me up and say, hey, Bobby. No, the casino might send me some stuff, but that's besides the point. It's because we go to it generally to solve what we think the problem is. And drinking isn't the problem. It's more the solution. We don't have to, I know for me, I didn't have to think about the bad day at work, the speed bumps in a relationship, the stress of living in corporate America and doing things a certain way. Like all of that. I didn't have to worry about that. I can reflect back now on when I'd come down here for holidays before I was living in Connecticut again. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. I knew that there was family members that were going to drop the ball. I knew there was family members that were going to get emotional because the other family members dropped the ball. And I would just load up my wine and get down there and do it, right? So dry January is an opportunity to be like, okay, I'm not in those situations, so it's easier to remove it. We're especially in cold places, probably in a little bit of hibernation zone. And that's fine too. I encourage everyone to take the time to rest. You've probably seen the posts on like an Instagram or wherever where it's like, did you know sleeping or taking a day off to just do nothing is actually doing something because you're taking care of yourself? I believe in that. Like there's times we have to do that. And our body will send us cues. So if you are resting your body, taking care of yourself, congratulations. If you think you could do a better job of that, know that there are resources out there. I don't usually buy into the calendar flips, everything changes game. Like it's going to be the best year ever. I've noticed, right? We were all in this place in 2020, and everybody thought, like, as soon as 2021 happened, well, I'll tell you, 2021 was the roughest year of my life ever. Drinking, sober, all of it. It was the roughest year of my life. I happened to be sober. I happened to stay sober, but there was so many things that happened in 2021. I'm kind of surprised I didn't go back to gambling or drinking, quite honestly. Again, ties back into the mental things. And the same stuff has happened with the calendar flipping this year. Oh, it's going to be a great 2025. Why do we get in this? Why does the calendar dictate when we're going to be our version of successful or our version of healthy or our version of all right? The calendar doesn't dictate that, guys. We do. We do it one little step at a time. Maybe your step is watching a bunch of TikTok content about dry January. If you do that, I suggest you check out Dr. Amen. He's one of my absolute faves, has been, and he can be way more clinical and psychological to you than I can. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the first step. Maybe the first step is not drinking on January 1st, whether it's because you're hungover or you just don't drink on January 1st. The way it works, the way that I see people being successful, the way you can be successful is as simple as making the choice. If you don't make the choice, like if you leave it like an open door, the door is always open. So it's easy to go back. You haven't committed in your heart and your brain. You like got to get all that in alignment, whether it's for dry January or forever. What's beautiful about dry January, and if you listen to a lot of people's stories, they find that in 31 days or X amount of days, they start feeling better. And they're like, hmm. And we're getting to be in a place in this world, it's so freaking beautiful, where it's okay to not drink. It is okay. And more people are making it the norm. And I thank and applaud everybody that helps with that because recovering and recovery don't necessarily mean the same thing, right? Like we're all recovering from something. It could be grief, loss, losing a job, a divorce, all of that. We can all be recovering from something without necessarily like being in recovery as we know it from a 12-step lens, but we're all recovering from something, and giving our bodies and our minds and all of that time to heal is just amazing. So I invite you to consider it if you haven't considered it, whether you're making that choice today or any day during the year. The calendar doesn't dictate it. Here's a fun fact. If you had dry Tuesdays, there's more Tuesdays throughout the year. There's 52, right? Maybe depending on how the calendar falls. If you just said, I'm not going to drink on Tuesdays, you're going to have more days than if you do dry January. So there's options, guys. Make the choice that's right for you. Just make the choice. And if you don't want to participate in that, like for me, I'm already sober. So I'm going to have a dry January. I'm focused on sugar. I gained 10 pounds because I've been eating sugar, not even because of the holidays. I'd love to blame it on that. It's because I've been stressed and uncomfortable, and I've been using that it doesn't numb my feelings. I still feel stressed and uncomfortable, but I've just been using that to placate myself. So make the choice. I love you, beautiful people. I will be back every day for the month of January, whether it's education about dry January. I'm here to support you. If you feel called to drop me an email or check out any of the support tools that I have posted in the show notes or on social or wherever we're connected, feel free to use them. Feel free to reach out. You're not alone. You're not alone. A lot of people are feeling the after holiday vibe, and we're all in this together. We're all just walking each other home, as one of my mentors says. And I'm grateful to be here, and Happy New Year.